Yo people, hope you're all doing well and welcome to a new video. In this video, I will show you the top 5 things that you can be doing right now in order to make a ton of gil in the latest patch. The methods I will cover will be useful and accessible to everyone and will not be locked behind any content such as FC housing or housing in general. So I will not be covering submarines or gardening. I have covered gardening in a previous video and submarines I will cover in a later video. I'll be ranking these methods based on how long the process is, along with how much gil that can be made. So let's get right into the methods. So leave hand-ins is going to be our 5th method. I've mentioned this one a few times in previous videos and there's really a good reason for this. Essentially, you are rewarded with roughly 10k for every hand-in and the materials required for the crafts are very easy to collect. The 2 items that we'd want to focus on would be the Sighty if you have a culinarian leveled or Command Craftsman's Drawer for alchemy. You can easily get the materials for the crafts by either sending a retainer out to get the materials for you, or you can just go and gather them yourself. If you have no gatherers level, then you can also just purchase the materials off the market board and you'd still make a lot of profit. We all get a total leave allowance of 100 and we are also given 6 every day. That works out to 60k a day and that makes that 420k a week. It's pretty easy when you consider how easy it is to craft these. I'll post a link in the description for the macro that I use in case you don't have one. Also, if you don't already do this, it would be a good idea to assign a confirm hotkey button to use to speed through the menus when handing in the leaves. I explained how to do this with a live example in a previous video, so feel free to check that out. For the 4th method on the list, we're going to look at Palaka Mistletoe farming. So with patch 6.2, us crafters were very surprised to see a change in the materials required for the latest combat potions. We expected to see the use of immutable solutions in the craft, however instead Palaka Mistletoes were added to the requirements. These mistletoes are only available through the astronomy terms that you can get through roulettes or combat, meaning those who are only into crafting have no other choice but to solely buy these from the market board. Now, this is great for combat classes because although it's not super easy to just farm the tomes, this means that the demand for Palaka Mistletoes will remain super high. If we check the market board right now, then we can see that they are sitting at around 5k each. If you complete your daily roulettes without PvP, then you can get 660 astronomy tomes per day and the mistletoes only cost 20 each. If you really wanted to, you could also just farm the latest dungeons right now to get a minimum of 80 tomes per run. But in all honesty, I would suggest against this. I think it's best just to do your daily roulettes and then move on to another way of making gil for the day. And this brings me on to my 3rd best way to make gil on the list, and that is making furniture and housing items. As we already know, Endwalker introduced some big changes to housing, specifically in addition to the lottery system. Now initially they only made 5 or 6 wards accessible to new private owners, however this was changed due to the lack of the FC wards being filled. With all of the changes happening and the migration of players to the new servers that were also added, this basically meant a huge influx of new house owners. Naturally, this has pushed up the furniture market slightly. Where some items have fallen in price due to the popularity of these for crafters, others have stayed the same or have even gone up in price. The best way to navigate this is just to do some research. Navigate through your crafting log housing crafts and just see how much the prices are along with how often the furniture is selling. There are tons of different furnitures that you can sell that match this criteria, so just add a top 10 to your favorites for each class and check through them daily. These are super easy to make as you can literally just press one button to complete the craft, as there's no requirement for having high quality housing items. Typically what I do is I focus on the items that are selling for anywhere between 20 to 50k and that are selling quite often, and then I will just make a few of them and just list them on the market board. Again, these are items that are not going to be selling immediately, but they are really low in investment costs and over time they will definitely add to your profit. Also, when they do sell, it's really easy to basically just restock on them and put them back up for sale. So the 2nd method on my list would be raid food and raid potions. So as far back as I can remember, this has always been a great way to generate a lot of income. Raiding is such a big part of the game, so naturally people will be buying food and potions from the market board very often. Raiders will typically be buying supplies from the market board since not everyone has multiple hours a day to both raid and also craft their own supplies. It does take a bit of time to build a big stack of these, but you will honestly sell these a lot quicker than you can make them. In order to get started on these, you'd want to have your culinarian or your alchemist at level 90 for foods or potions respectively. You'd also need to have the master 10 recipe book unlocked. A good thing to do before setting out on crafting these is check which one is selling for the most and more often. If I'm focusing on potions, then I would mainly look at the tinctures of dexterity or strength. I will use the grade 7 tinctures of strength as an example. So typically what I do when making these is buy the mistletoes from friends that supply me regularly or from the market boards, and then gather materials to make the grade 5 alkehests. I will then craft a bunch of the high quality alkehests, which will then allow me to craft the tinctures using a 15-step macro, which is basically a 1-button macro. One craft will take around 50 seconds and will give you 3 potions, which means if you do this for 30 minutes whilst watching something on the side, for example, you can complete around 36 crafts, giving you 108 potions. These are currently selling for around 5k each at the time of making this video, so that would be a total of 540k in 30 minutes. Now, of course, you have to factor in the cost for the materials such as the Moonlight Aether Sands and the Palaka Mistletoes, but you'd still be making close to 330k of that 540 just in profit. Now, of course, if you have more time on your hands and you want to maximize the profit you make from these, then you could simply get the Palaka Mistletoes and the Moonlight Aether Sands yourself. However, I would highly advise against this if your sole purpose is just to make gil, and the reason why is because you will simply make more profit by just buying the materials and crafting the pots. The same time spent on gathering Aether Sands and Palaka Mistletoes does not offset 200k savings on the materials per 30 minutes spent crafting, so honestly it will just be a waste of time. But yeah, you can apply this same logic to raid foods and literally do the same. And with that brings me on to my number 1 way of making gil currently, and that would be market board flipping. So this has to be the best money making method in the game for me. This has always been something that's been very profitable and has now become even more profitable with the new recent addition of being able to hop data centers. The reason why I would put this as number 1 is purely down to the fact that all you really need for this to work is gil. It's a very versatile method in that you can really pick whatever market you want based on how much gil you have, and still find ways to make huge profits with super low effort. If you have a low balance to start off with, then you can just focus on cheaper markets, whereas if you have a bigger balance, then you can really pick whatever you want. The main thing here is understanding the market and understanding what is high in demand currently. I'll give you a real-time example of how easy this is. So the main things that I focus on buying and selling tie into some of the methods that I've mentioned above. For example, we know that raid food and potions sell consistently, which means there are crafters that are constantly making these and gatherers or combat classes that are constantly collecting the materials required. Using this information, we can take a look at the clusters, the Palaka Mistletoes and the Moonlight Aether Sands. So yesterday when I hopped online, I noticed that on the Light data center, the cheapest Moonlight Aether Sand available was 1.8k. A quick search using Universalis, which I will post a link for in the description, showed that on the Chaos data center, these were selling for 1.2k each. I bulk purchased around 20 stacks of the Moonlight Aether Sands first and sold most of them within an hour. Minus the tax cost, this netted almost around 1 million profit. Along with this, I also noticed that the lightning clusters on Lich were selling for around 80 to 120 gil each. Another quick search showed that these were purchasable on the Chaos data center for 30 gil each. These typically sell in big bulks and also very often. With the clusters, I literally made 3 to 4 times the gil I invested. Using this logic, you can pretty much target any niche market and literally do the same thing. The only thing that I would additionally suggest here is to focus on markets where you know that the items are being sold at a consistent rate. Investing in markets where it can take a few days to sell the items may not be the best idea, only down to the fact that other people may also realize that the prices are a lot cheaper on other servers, so this will then drastically bring down the price of the item that you've invested in. And with that, we are at the end of the video. So I know that some of these methods may be popular and people may already know about some of the methods. However, I've tried to give some insight into actual logic and how you can actually apply these methods. I know that a lot of people know of market board flipping, but I also know that not a lot of people actually delve into it because they don't understand the logic behind it, and it can seem quite overwhelming to try and understand the market. On that note, if this video helped you in any way, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.